This video was thanks to viewers like you, who comment on my videos requesting these topics. Much like the Jenny Bean, who asked how I would make War Greymon, Blitz Greymon, or Victory Greymon as a Pathfinder 2nd edition character. And I've got to say, after I'd done a build in Dungeons & Dragons for Agumon, I think it was about time I did it in Pathfinder 2nd edition. So why don't we take a look to see just how we can play as Agumon? Shall we begin? Greetings, my dear viewers. It is I, Drahon, and welcome back to Pathfinder Hero Flux. That is Flux, short for fluctuation. This is a parody series off of my Dungeons & Dragons character conversion series. Much like in that series, I take a character from across media and drop them into their respective tabletop role-playing game that we are talking about. And today is, of course, Pathfinder. So we are going to look through the canon of Agumon from the Digimon franchise and see how it translates into Pathfinder 2nd edition. And we have a lot to cover. When it was a Dungeons & Dragons, we only had the ability to reference one or two of Agumon's various Digivolution lines. But with Pathfinder 2nd edition, we have more variety when it comes to character creation. So we now have the ability to not only talk about War Greymon, Victory Greymon, Shine Greymon, and Blitz Greymon, but we also have the ability to also talk about Rust Tyrannomon, and even Dino Rexmon. Now, sure, you can pick up a couple of spells here and there that'll reference other types of Digivolution lines that Agumon could take up, such as taking on the form of an elemental to become Meramon. But we are not talking about what spells you can pick up from your spellcasting class. We're just talking about a base character creation, as I haven't gone through the spell lists for the various class types yet. But like I said, we have a lot of variety just with a base character. So why don't we go ahead and take a look to see what we have. And to start things off, we need our stats. And the starting stats we are going to be picking are Strength, Dexterity, Constitution, and Intelligence, each at 12. Now, Agumon does follow each of the groups that we have here on the right-hand side. Deep Savers, Dragon's Roar, Metal Empire, Nature Spirits, Nightmare Soldiers, and Virus Busters. Most importantly, we are talking about him being a Dragon's Roar group, so we definitely want to have the heritage of the Dragon Blood. But most of Agumon's evolutions are dinosaurs, so we need the ancestry of the lizard folk as well, which is going to increase our strength and dexterity each by 2, and decrease our intelligence by 2, because of that ability flaw that lizard folk have. For hit points, we have a starting hit points of 8, which will increase later, do not worry. We are a size of medium, we have a speed of 25 feet. Our languages are Common and Eruxi. We also have a Claws attack from the Lizard Folk ancestry, which is 1d4, gaining the Agile and Finesse traits. We also have Aquatic Adaptation, which gives us a free feat in Hold Breath. And we also have access to the Ancestry feat of Bone Magic, which gives us a free cantrip in, believe it was the Nature Domain spells. the nature spell list. This is to, I hope, reference Agumon's primary attack in Pepper Breath. But again, I haven't looked at that actual spell list, so I don't actually know. But in either case, we still need bone magic in order to take an ancestry feat later on in this video that is going to reference one of Agumon's many different evolution lines. And of course, with the dragon blood, we do have access to the ability to gain when we make a success on a saving throw against a fear effect, it is treated as a critical success instead, which is pretty useful. Oh, here it is. One cantrip from the occult spell list, or the primal spell list. Alright, next is background. In my Dungeons & Dragons version of the Agumon build, I did reference Wargreymon and Omnimon's ties to the Royal Knights. I cannot do that here. So what I have to do instead is reference Agumon's ties to the anime, which in both 01 and 02, Agumon did have to face off against various tyrants of the digital world. So Tyrant Witness made the most sense here. This is going to give us the trained skill of Undead Lore. I would recommend changing that to something else if Dungeon Master permitted. But that is not what matters here. What matters is our increase to our strength and dexterity, and thanks to Tyrant Witness, we can cast Disrupt Undead as a divine innate cantrip. Which, I guess it's okay. It's not great, but it works. We only really wanted the flavor of the background and not really the mechanics of it, though I'm not going to pass off on a good cantrip. Moving on to our class. I almost went fighter because of the lack of feats that the champion had, but I went with champion anyway since we do get access to the divine spell list, which we need since Wargreymon and I believe Victory and Shine Greymon also have access to abilities that can only be replicated by a divine spell, like Gaia Force and other abilities. So I decided to go with Champion as much as I was not a fan of it. We get an increase to our strength and an increase in our hit points equal to 10 plus our constitution modifier. Our class feat is going to be Ever Stand Stance, and we get a free feat in Shield Block. The Perception is trained. We also are trained in reflex saves and are experts in fortitude and will. We are also trained in the skills of athletics, religion, survival, and nature. We are trained in simple, martial, and unarmed attacks. We are also trained in all armor and unarmored defense. Of course, we are trained in divine spells. And for the cause, like I said, it was a bit of a difficult decision to go with Champion. But with the fact that the Royal Knights serve the digital life form Yggdrasil, who is the god of the digital world, it made sense to go with Champion. And since the Royal Knights are mostly for justice, the cause of justice, which is the new name for the Paladin cause, I thought it would be fitting to go this route. We are also getting Consecration in Holy Aura, as well as the devotion spell Shields of the Spirit, as a reference to War Greymon's special shield, the Chrome Digizoid shield that he uses. Thanks to the Justice Cause, we get the reaction of Retributive Strike, and we also get Relentless Reaction at 9th level and Exalted Reaction at 11th level. For our edicts, we get access to follow the law, respect legitimate authorities or leadership, and your anathema is take advantage of others or cheat. Which I guess that fits for Yggdrasil. Moving on to Champion Level 2, I did notice that we did not have very many feats in the Champion that increase our attack bonus. There are a couple, but not that many. So I decided to go with the class feat of Barbarian Dedication with the Instinct of the Giant, which gave us access to Rage to empower our melee attacks. Which reminds me, I probably should write down a couple of ideas in the future for the Champion for homebrew feats. For our skill feats, we also get access to Quick Jump, and we are trained in Acrobatics. Moving on to Champion Level 3, we are going to be experts in the Survival skill. For our feat, I decided to go with the Ancestral Paragon, getting access to the Ancestry feat of Eruxi Armaments, and going with Claw Armaments to get that claw attack increase. We also get Blessing of the Devoted for Blessed Armaments. Thanks to Eruxi Armaments, our claws do 1d6 damage instead of 1d4. And at 5th level, whenever we get a critical hit with one of our unarmed attacks, we have gained or improved with this feat, we get its critical specialization, which is pretty good. And the Blessed Armament, get the armament's critical specialization effect, and you grant the armament a property rune of your choice from the following list: Fearsome, Ghost Touch, Returning, Shifting, or Vitalizing. In Digimon World, I believe it was 4, Agumon does use a sword, and when he gets to War Greymon, he has his Dramon Slayers, which are his clawed gauntlets. This would be very useful for either of those weapons. Moving on to level 4 Champion, we are getting the class feat of Basic Fury, which is going to give us the Barbarian feat of Sudden Charge. We're also going to grab the skill feat of Assurance and use it on Athletics. Moving on to level 5 Champion, go ahead and increase your Strength by 1, your Dexterity, Constitution, and Charisma by 2. You are now an expert in Athletics. We're going to grab the Ancestry feat of Unarmed Cunning, and we also have access to Weapon Expertise. Unarmed Cunning is going to give us a boost to our Claw Unarmed attack. Whenever you score a critical hit with a claw or an unarmed attack you gain from Lizardfolk Ancestry feat, you apply the unarmed attack's critical specialization effect, which is pretty useful. Moving on to Champion Level 6, we are going to get access to the class feat of Smite, which gives us a +3 status bonus to damage from a strike, and increases it to +4 if we have master proficiency with the weapon or armed attack you're using for the strike. which is pretty good. This is something that we should have gotten in Dungeons & Dragons, but Dungeons & Dragons version of Smite only applies to weapon attacks, not your unarmed strikes. This works for both weapon and unarmed attacks, so that's pretty good. If you are holy or unholy and the target has the opposite trait, so for our purposes we are a holy being, and our enemy should be unholy, the bonus is a +4 or a +6 if you're a master. If the target takes a hostile action against you or one of your allies before the start of your next turn, the duration extends to the end of that enemy's next turn. If the enemy continues to take these hostile actions each turn, the duration continues to extend. Your current smite ends if you use the smite action again. Moving on to level 7 champion. We are now masters in athletics. We're going to grab the feat of fleet. We also get access to weapon specialization and armor expertise. Moving on to level 8, we get the class feat of instinct ability, which gives us access to the giant instincts ability. Which, if you've seen some of our previous Digimon builds, you will already know what the giant instinct ability is. For our skill feat, we are going with steady balance. I am mostly just picking it for the ability to pick a skill feat. I really didn't want to pick it, but there were no other options to pick. At least at this level. Moving on to champion level 9, we get the ancestry feat of Dragon's Flight, and we are masters in the survival skill. I decided to go with Dragon's Flight because most of Agumon's evolutions at this level and above have some form of ability to fly, Skull Greymon excluded from this list. And most of the level 9 and above Agumon evolutions, like Metal and Rise Greymon, have wings. So it makes sense to go with Dragon's Flight. We also get access to Relentless Reaction, Sacred Body, Champion Expertise, and Reflex Expertise. Moving on to champion level 10, we are going with the class feat of Radiant Armament and the skill feat of Rapid Mantle. We are also going to be increasing our strength by 1, our dexterity, constitution, and wisdom each by 2. Radiant Armament is another one of those rare instances where the champion has access to improvements to their weapon. I don't know why, but the champion seems to be focused on blocking opponents' attacks instead of trying to take the opponent down. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to go with the fighter. It's because the fighter had a lot of feats that was focused on attacks, but we're going with champion simply for the fact that we get access to the divine spell list. Moving on to level 11 champion, we get access to the expert skill of nature. We have the feather step feat. We also have exalted reaction, perception expertise, and divine will. Moving on to level 12, a lot of Agumon's evolutions, like Metal Greymon, Blitz Greymon, and even Metal and Rust Tyrannomon have some form of firearm. So we are going with the class feat of a Gunslinger Dedication, which will give us access to the Gunslinger Way of the Vanguard. And we're going to be trained in Intimidation. We're going to get access to the skill feat of Assurance, and this time we'll use it for survival. At level 13 champion, we are going to get expert skill Intimidation, the ancestry feat of Bone Investiture. This was the lizard folk feat that I wanted to get, and that's because we get the ability to cast Dinosaur Form as a 5th rank innate spell to become a huge dinosaur. This is to reference Digimon like Triceramon and Dino Rexmon. We also get access to Armor Mastery and Weapon Mastery. Moving on to level 14, we are going to get the class feat of Advanced Fury for the Barbarian feat of Giant's Stature. We also get access to the skill feat of Intimidating Glare. Moving on to level 15, go ahead and increase your Strength, Dexterity, and Constitution each by 1, and your Charisma by 2. We are also Masters in Intimidation. We're going to grab the feat of Die Hard, and we also get Greater Weapon Specialization. Moving on to level 16, we're going for the class feat of Basic Shooting, which is going to give us access to the Gunslinger feat, Munitions Crafter. Any Gunslinger character should have this feat. You should not be going without your ammo. It is very important to have. So Munitions Crafter is perfect. We also get access to Infused Regents and the free feat of Alchemical Crafting. We also get the skill feat of Battle Cry. Moving on to level 17, we are now Masters in the Nature skill, and we're going with the Ancestry feat of Form of the Dragon. There are a lot of other Dragon Digimon within the Agumon evolution line that we're probably not going to have access to with this build. But thanks to Form of the Dragon, we should be able to get those different types of evolutions for Agumon no problemo. And some of the ones that we do have access to currently are technically classified as Dragon Men. So that's pretty good. We also get access to Legendary Armor and Champion Mastery. Moving on to level 18 Champion, we get the class feat of Practiced Reloads and the skill feat of Wall Jump, and we also have access to Clear a Path. At level 19, we are now Legendary in Athletics. We're going to grab the feat of Toughness, and we also have access to Hero's Defiance. And finally, level 20 Champion. Go ahead and increase your Strength, Dexterity, and Constitution each by 1, and increase your Wisdom by 2. For your class feat, we want Armament Paragon, and the skill feat of Cloud Jump. For some reason, I didn't put the Armament Paragon feat on screen, so you're probably just going to have to look that up in the Player Core or Player Core 2 on your own. So sorry about that. But that is the last class feat that gave us access to some form of weapon modifications. Like I said, not very many class feats dedicated to killing your opponents. It's almost like the champion looked at Dungeons & Dragons Redemption Paladin and copied everything from there. I'm not looking forward to playing as a champion, I'm going to be honest with you. But with some of these different class feats that can improve upon the champion's weapon attacks, I think we'll be okay. But what did you think of today's build? Let me know in the comment section below. And who do you want to see next? Until next time, this has been Drehan, and I am offline.